My son's bride, Tiffany, looked me dead in the eye and told me my only purpose at the wedding was to be a walking ADM. She said, "Thank you for footing the bill. Now you can leave." What she didn't realize was that when I walked out, I took the entire $500,000 foundation of her fantasy with me. If you believe that respect is earned, not bought, please show your support. I'm Eleanor Vance, a 68-year-old retired interior architect. I dedicated my life to building spaces with substance. But on the day of my son Jordan's wedding, standing in the sterile white echo chamber of the Museum of Modern Art in Chicago, I realized I'd let a fatal flaw creep into my own family's structure. I had paid for everything. The orchids flown in from Ecuador, the string quartet, the $500,000 price tag. I did it for Jordan, convincing myself this excess was the cost of his happiness. The place screamed Tiffany. It was a space curated for pictures, valued by price tags, and built on the flimsy foundation of social media likes, the familiar warmth of my friends, Otis Bell, my caterer, and Terrence Green, my jazz musician, cut through the cold air. They were the only solid things in that cavernous room. I had just asked Terrence's band to play Etta James's At Last, a small anchor of sincerity. It was Arthur's and my song, my late husband. That's when Tiffany approached me. She moved like a storm cloud. "Mrs. Vance, a word now." I followed her, and the moment we were alone, the mask dropped. "What in God's name do you think you're doing with that music? Are you trying to turn my wedding into a memorial service for your dead husband?" The words were aimed at the very foundation of my heart. "This is our brand, Eleanor. Your time is over. Your only value to us now is your bank account. Now you can leave." She took a final step closer, her face contorted with pure entitlement. "Get out of here! Get out and don't ever come back. You are not welcome here." In that moment, I felt no anger, only a chilling clarity. It was the feeling an architect gets when they see the unfixable structural flaw. I finally saw the complete blueprint of their betrayal. I smiled, a cold, quiet smile of a person who finally understood the full scope of the problem. "All right, Tiffany," I said, my voice calm. "You've made yourself perfectly clear. I'll leave, but I won't be leaving alone." I sent 2 short, precise texts. Plan B. Execute now. I walked straight to Terrence and then to Otis. They understood everything. Terrence and his band began quietly packing up. Otis ordered his staff to immediately stop serving. The lifeblood of the event, the music and the food, drained out in a quiet, professional exodus. Jordan ran up to me, his face pale with panic. "Mom, why is everything stopping?" "Ask your bride," I said, my voice flat. "She dismissed the client. Since I'm the one paying, my vendors must leave with their client." Tiffany emerged from the gallery, her cruel smirk dissolving into a look of horror as she saw the caterers wheeling away carts of food. When she finally realized that I was walking out with the entire foundation of her glamorous fantasy, she screamed. It was a raw, ugly sound of pure fury and utter defeat. I turned my back on the wreckage and walked out into the cool night. I had funded my own disrespect for 2 years. Now, I was funding the demolition. The structural rot had begun subtly. For 2 years, I had written checks, $50,000 for their vague luxury app, $75,000 for an influencer marketing trip to Bali. Each time, I typed a note in the bank memo line. Personal loan for app development, loan for Bali marketing event. I saved the confirmation PDFs in a folder I called documentation. I wasn't just losing money, I was meticulously building a case. The fatal blow to our family's integrity came 3 months ago. Tiffany and Jordan, dressed for a corporate takeover, presented me with a glossy brochure for Evergreen Meadows, a luxury retirement community. They wanted to liquidate the lake house, the home Arthur and I built, to fund their city apartment and pay my entrance fee. Tiffany even brought a draft of the real estate listing agreement. They were ready to sell my life out from under me. I met immediately with Kendra James, a sharp lawyer downtown. I handed her the documentation folder. I told her I wanted to enforce a contract, not win a family fight. They want to liquidate your primary asset, Kendra stated. We will remove that asset entirely. Within 2 weeks, the lake house, the single property Tiffany craved, was transferred into the Arthur Vance Legacy Trust. It was now legally protected. The trust would fund a permanent architecture scholarship in Arthur's name. It would build futures, not fund lifestyles. The core of the structure was the legal clause I insisted on. Jordan was granted the right to live in the house for the remainder of his life, but he would never own it, never sell it, and was legally responsible for 100% of the taxes, insurance, and maintenance. He was being given the responsibility of a home without the financial prize. As for the wedding, my accountant had advised I sign all contracts under my corporate entity, Blackwood Designs. Kendra located the perfect escape hatch, the client representation clause. The contract stipulated that if the client's representative, which was me, was asked to leave, the vendor could terminate services immediately. It was not revenge. It was business. The final confrontation took place hours later at the Blue Note, a quiet jazz club, and Tiffany and Jordan found me there. Tiffany's composure shattered. "How could you be so cruel? You ruined everything," she shrieked. I waited until they were exhausted. "Let's look at the facts," I said, my voice calm. "First, Eleanor Vance did not pay for your wedding. Blackwood Designs, my corporation, paid for your wedding when Tiffany told the client's representative to get out. She terminated the contract. Otis and Terrence were professionally obligated to leave. I then dropped the first bomb. Now, let's talk about the house. It is no longer mine. It belongs to the Arthur Vance Legacy Trust. The multi-million-dollar asset you wanted is now a scholarship fund. You can live there, Jordan, but you will pay every cent of the taxes and upkeep. You will never own it. It is a legacy to be maintained, not an asset to be liquidated." Tiffany was speechless. Then I turned to Jordan and slid 2 envelopes across the table. They contained the promissory notes for the $125,000. Those were never gifts. Jordan, they were loans. You are now officially in default. My lawyer will be in touch next week to discuss a repayment schedule. Jordan stared at the notes, the terror of his new reality dawning on his face. He wasn't looking at his mother anymore. He was looking at a creditor. I stood up, my friends rising with me. "You talk about my legacy as if it's a pile of money I was hoarding," I said, looking at Jordan. "You don't understand what a legacy is. It's not what you leave for people. It's what you leave in people. You chose the flawed blueprint. I am just the building inspector condemning a structure that was never meant to stand. The marriage, built on financial expectation, did not last the week. Their shared future, a business plan, was declared bankrupt. Tiffany cut her losses and vanished. Jordan was left alone, facing a mountain of debt and a life he had to figure out how to pay for on his own. He lost his safety net and was, for the first time in his life, utterly alone. 6 months later, I stood on the campus of my old university. A banner read, "The future site of the Arthur Vance Center for Architectural Innovation." As the dean spoke about the transformative power of the scholarship, I saw Jordan standing at the edge of the crowd. He was thinner, older, and alone. He wasn't there to ask for anything. He was just watching. Our eyes met. There was no anger, just a quiet, weary acknowledgement. He saw the architect, the man who had to tear down a flawed structure to save the integrity of the design. I gave him a slow, single nod. Not forgiveness, but recognition. "I see you starting over. That painful demolition was the start of a new, honest foundation for us both. I learned that sometimes. The most loving act is to condemn a rotten structure in order to protect the ground on which it stands."